And the Bootleg Racing League welcome you to the Super Late Model Series, presented by Gargamel's Kitchen, a food-grade nitrous oxide provider located in Denver, Colorado, and a proud sponsor of the Bootleg Racing League. Their office at 2045 South Valentia Street, or you can call it 720-707-6178. Tonight, we're at East Stafford Motor Speedway for the third race of Season 17 in series history. My name's Justin Prince. Alongside with the booth for tonight's action is Taylor Burris with our producer and Trevor Greenfield. Taylor, it's been a very intriguing start to the season. 2 different winners so far in the opening races, but with many of the drivers who have made the top 3 indicating the chances of them running part-time this year, the championship is ever more muddier coming into race 3 to see which drivers come out on top by the end.
It certainly is, Justin, and good evening, everyone, as we are here at the Stafford Motor Speedway, a track where we will see a lot of competitors go at it. This championship, though, with even 3 races coming up to being completed here at the end of this one, it's still hard to say who is going to be really the fan favorite to crown themselves as a champion here in this super late model division for the BRL. A lot of drivers are pointing to a lot of the hard chargers, such as Kenny Kibbe, James Lowell, and many other strong competitors who are dominating here this season. And of course, one driver who is currently not in tonight's race, the great and famous J.R. Shepherd, the multi-time champion. But let's take a little bit of a better look here at the Stafford Motor Speedway here today. And it is an absolute beautiful track here tonight, located not too far here in Connecticut as we watch the action. Temperatures currently in the 60s here at 83 degrees. It's partly cloudy. 88 the track temperatures, winds out of the northwest at 7 miles an hour for tonight's 100-lap feature event here at Stafford Motor Speedway, Justin. And I got to say, it's exciting to see this as we get ready to watch all the action here.
And we talked a bit about the championship battle right off the top moments ago. And right now at the moment, things are intriguing because James Lowe is the one who is at the top of the standings when you look towards the points itself. 1 point advantage over Kenny Kibbe, Matthew Thunhorst, Michael Goodman, Joseph Zagawa amongst the top 5 competitors. But as indicated by some, such as Matthew Thunhorst, such as Kibbe, such as James Lowe, they might not make all the races. So that, in turn, could open up the door for another driver to take a BRL championship, especially with J.R. Shepherd, as you mentioned. Now, racing the past few weeks, he was actually in the broadcast booth for the first 2 weeks of the season and mentioned he'd be taking a bit of a break from the track itself coming into this season.
Yeah, J.R. Shepherd thankfully was able to take over a couple of the weeks that I was out of town. We usually dealing with some other situations. But here tonight, he also wish he could have joined us in the broadcast booth to have some fun with us here tonight. But looking at the championship as well, you got Austin Belke, who's always been a strong competitor in the BRL competition. Bruce Pearson, Todd Liston, and some of the main staples in the competition throughout BRL as they finish up the few final warm-ups. So it's going to be a who's who of who will come out on top, with some of the heavy hitters not going to be able to compete full-time this season here in season 17 of the BRL Super Late Model Series.
Keep in mind, this series moved its way to Saturdays, entering this iRacing season after being the Grand National Series in the slot for a few years. Right now, it's Justin Morton, though, at the top of the board, and keeping the trends up of picking up speed when it comes to these super late models. Kenny Kibbe, James Lowe, Donnie Moore, Jason Mendo, the top 5 of the practice sheet. And keep in mind, for the 100 laps up at the docket, tire management is going to be critical, but also making sure of staying out of trouble, because at this track, cautions can breed cautions, as showcased by drivers in the late model stock and the Tour Modifieds earlier this evening.
Yeah, the Tour Mods had a bunch of cautions in their race there for their 70-lap feature. So it's going to be interesting to see who will come out on top, who is going to be able to take care of their equipment here, as we see the 9 of Justin Morton right now at the top of the practice times here. He's already ran 50 laps in this warm-up session and set a time of currently a 19.235. So he is definitely going to be one to watch in this race. He's got a strong car here, and he's looking forward to seeing what he can accomplish in tonight's action.
But remember, the starting grid when it comes to this series does have the invert to consider, where the top 8 is inverted from the previous race results, meaning how you performed last time out, your reward starting in the middle of the Hornet's Nest the next week. It's time to take a look at how the drivers will start tonight as they've completed their warm-up session. Brian Dean starts the pole tonight with the inversion based on the attendance, with Michael Goodman in second. Keep an eye on him. He's been a contender in a couple races this year. Donnie Moore, he's been quick throughout the night at this track. He starts third, with Kenny Kibbe in fourth. Justin Morton and James Lowe, fifth and sixth tonight, round out the inversion spots. Keep an eye as well on the 87 of Todd Liston in seventh position. He had one of his best runs in the BRL in this slot before having attrition late. He'll start alongside Joseph Snyder, Bruce Pearson, Kurt Smith, round out the top 10 Taylor.
Austin Belke in the number 24 machine in the 11th position, followed by Michael Lemoy, who is in 12th, with Michael Smith in the 13th position. Jason Mendo will be starting in the 14th spot, with Mark Herzog in 15th. Robbie Robinson is in the 56th machine in 16th, with Jeffrey Harden in 17th. Adam Scone is going to be in 18th, with Joe Segala rounding out your 19-car field here tonight at Stafford. A beautiful group of cars here with the super late model division, as they're going to be behind Barry, the pace car driver, in that Ford Mustang iRacing pace car.
First time I've heard him called Barry. I've heard Benny. I've heard a couple others. First time Barry. But when it comes to tonight, keys to victory.
A lot of keys to victory. The biggest one, of course, that's going to be most important, staying out of trouble here. We saw in the Tour Mods and the late model stock a lot of cautions happening in there, drivers having to take care of their equipment, also managing their tires, because there is going to be no really chance to change tires here. 100 laps here at this track is going to go by quickly, and also be prepared to use the chrome horn if need be. This is short track racing at its finest. These drivers are going to go all out to see if they can have them a shot of winning a championship, since they now have to determine who will be the new face this season in the BRL.
Jason Mendes showed good pace. He also indicated, keep in mind, he'd be running part-time. Many other drivers bringing new looks for tonight's action, including drivers like Jeffrey Harden. You have our competitors looking to showcase they can drive those super late models, compared to the differences with the Gargamel's machinery. But the iRacing pace car is off. It's time to go racing from Stafford. Brian Dean in control of the field. Green flag is out. We're underway from East Stafford. Trouble! Donnie Moore in the grass! Donnie Moore from third position, tire spins it, just avoids the wall, but the caution is out as more cars stack up in 1 and 2. Massive trouble right from the get-go.
Justin Morton heavily damaged to the nose of that number 9 machine after that contact happening on the opening lap, and unfortunately they did not heed the warnings of the keys to victory here tonight for some people.
So Donnie Moore was stage 1 of that incident, Taylor. Stage 2, after the contact, Morton got hit again by Joseph Snyder turning down across the side of his car.
Right on board with him right here as around he goes, and there's the contact, and around he'll spin. More cars get collected up in this, but for Justin Morton from Sonoma, California, the total downforce machine will definitely have a rough night to start off, as we ride on board with Donnie Moore and see the contact right at the start.
The right there issue with the shift into the infield and just keeps it off the wall, and it puts him in the spot where he's just out of the range of out of the trouble by the time he gets back rolling. Either way, not the way drivers wanted this to start.
For Donnie Moore, I would have to say, Justin, though, that's probably the best case scenario for him, given the fact of what just happened.
Here's a look from Kurt Smith. Just can't squeeze on through.
Tough break for Kurt Smith in that 6th machine. He's always been such a strong competitor in this championship series for multiple different seasons, but unfortunately could not pull it off as we ride on board with Mike Lemoy from Fredericksburg, Virginia, in that number 40 machine. Right on board with him. He'll go to the top side. Does he clear? He hits the brakes and is able to save his car. No one else makes contact with him from behind, so a great job for Mike in that number 40 machine.
Mike Lemieux, indeed, getting in a bit of that lockup there, drops him back to 18th position as a result of the incident. And as a result, they'll re-rack him and stack him once again with the lights out this time. Dean, Goodman, Kibbe, Lowe, Morton, listed. Now the top 6. Now it's going to be intriguing how this start goes, especially with some of the drivers having damage. Nobody took the fast repair on hand in the pit lane so far. So a few drivers looking to maintain the track position they may have held on to, despite the bumper cars. One car nearly off in the grass already. Mark Herzog nearly to the back end of some of the drivers to the back of the line. Everybody else all set to go. iRacing pace car is off. Let's try this again. Green flag is out, back underway.
A little bit of a cleaner start in the start of this race as they head back into turns 1 and 2. The 28 machine of Michael Goodman goes way up to the top of the racetrack. He's going to get passed by James Lowe and Kenny Kibbe, dropping him down to 4th position.
Double back straight away. Mark Herzog gets turned. Robbie Robinson around as well. And quickly for the 2nd time tonight, we're under caution. Oh boy, that trend of cautions, precautions is coming up quick.
Certainly, indeed it is, and we'll see what will happen here tonight as we see Robbie Robinson in that 56 machine. Severe damage to the back end of that late model, as here we see Donnie Moore. Does he avoid it again? The grass saves him once again here. He'll avoid that incident.
Here's the reason for the incident. Watch corner exit where the lines are here. An exit to the wall.
It certainly is. That looks like to be the 51 machine, possibly?
56. Robinson, who was the outside.
Well, I was talking about the Hyundai that was also involved in that incident that turned around with Robbie Robinson.
Yeah, that would be Mark Herzog in the 57. And Lemieux picks up additional damage. He and Kurt Smith already are in the pit lane. And both of them are electing to take manual damage repair and hold on to the fast repair for the time being. So
which is actually...
Go ahead.
I was going to say that it's very important also to determine when to utilize that fast repair. If you think you have not a whole lot of damage, go ahead and take the time and fix it manually. You may go a lap down, but given the fact of how the situation will be tonight, we could easily get back on the lead lap when time allows it, possibly, for some of these competitors. So we'll see what happens for some of them as they go about fixing the car. Kurt Smith just came off a pit road. Michael Lemoy is still on pit road for quite some time. Much more severe damage as he has just completed his pit stops. He will now be rejoining the track 1 lap down.
So approaching the start of lap 10 this time as Dean, Kibbe, Lowe, Goodman, more in, I should say, amongst the top 5. The biggest mover so far is Joe Sagawa. Stayed out of the trouble, +6 with a clean race car. And +5 for Jeffrey Harden. And get a shout out to Harden with the new look tonight. Very colorful is the 44 for this evening's race as we get ready to restart again.
Jeffrey Harden in a very colorful California paint scheme as he's going to work his way through the middle of the field in that number 44 Ford Mustang. Keep an eye on him to see what he can accomplish from that 12th position on the outside lane.
Very intriguing design concept, and people happy to see that design on the racetrack. Brian Dean looks happy to continue to lead. Green flag is back out. Clean start, big send to the bottom. Door slam shot on Kenny Kibbe quickly.
James Lowe will come back in the 3rd position as they come off of turn number 2 down the back straightaway. Goodman stays in 4th. He has pressure from Justin Morton in the 9 machine as they work through the middle of turns 3 and 4. Can we keep it clean for this lap here? The answer is going to be so far, so good as they go almost 3 wide down the front straightaway heading into turn 1.
Many of the drivers electing to try and hug the bottom of the racetrack. Of note, the 73 of Michael Smith, he sent it to the apron the past 2 corners. He's trying a 3rd time in the back of the grouping, 3 wide in fact. With Joe Sagawa and Adam Shane, Shane gets squeezed out of the riding shotgun machine. Michael Smith wants to go places. The problem is it's not working.
It certainly is not, as you're right on board with that 73 black machine as they come off of turn number 2. He currently sits in that 12th spot as they work down the back straightaway, trying to get around the 44 of Jeffrey Hart. And Joe Sagala looking around to try to find an opening in the 81 machine as you ride on board with Michael Smith down the front straightaway, heading back into turn 1.
See him trying to continue to ride that. Kenny Kibbe's riding a similar line, and there he goes. Michael Smith spins it around, contact, and he collects Joe Sagawa. Back under caution for the 3rd time tonight.
Caution number 3, 14 laps completed. Let's see what happened to Michael Smith and Joe Sagala as they work through the middle of turns 1 and 2. And Sagala gives a little bit of buffer, not clear to get around him, and around they go, and collects a couple of other cars involved in that incident.
A little bit of do-si-do as the Illinois-based driver gets the back end of Michael Smith. Here's a look once more. I don't think he was expecting that, but he did lean off the bottom. Sagala sends it into the bottom.
Another thing these drivers need to realize, too, is patience as we ride on board with Sagala. Sagala did have an opening to maybe see if he can send it to the inside and get that opening in position, but the thing is, we're still so early. The best thing to do is maybe take your time, let the car come to you, let the track come to you even, take care of your tires, and if these other competitors that are going to utilize their tires a little bit more often, that will give the Love Sparks Illinois driver of Joe Sagala a better chance to work through the field.
As a result, we're under caution for the 3rd time tonight. Of note, Kurt Smith has taken the time to get more damage repairs done. Michael Lemieux did pick up the lucky dog as a result of his call to get more of the damage repaired, the previous yellow. So that gamble pays out for him currently. And the tough thing's going to be for some of the drivers, and you have to feel, Taylor, is if the attrition keeps building, it might be hard to pick up spots unless you are able to dodge the trouble in front or you're in front of the trouble.
That's going to be one of those keys to victories that we pointed out, staying out of trouble and trying to figure out where the trouble is going to be. I mean, we've seen it happen in the middle of the pack, the front of the pack, and towards the back of the pack here for these 3 cautions. So we'll have to see how this will work out. For Brian Dean, though, he is definitely one happy camper staying up towards the front of the field because all he has to worry about is making sure he gets the right jump on these restarts and able to pull a little bit of a gap over him and Kenny Kibbe as they make their way into turn 1. And then, of course, just ride it out till a caution.
Major thing to consider too is this track has very difficult moments to try and make moves. We've seen as well tonight, drivers have tried to rip people off the white line around the very bottom of the racetrack. And that's a art form in of itself because, especially with the super late models, dirty air's been discussed as a factor by J.R. Shepard the first few weeks of the season. Also being able to try and find the right spots to pass because the downforce level's higher than what the Arkman Art Series had for the Grand National Series. Drivers might be able to squeeze a bit better from the outside in some cases at some of the tracks this year as we've seen so far.
That's what's going to be interesting for some of these competitors here as we're now going back to 1 to green before we go back racing here at Stafford, is that trying to find that balance and figuring out what track best suits your driving style to know how to better perform when it comes to this race, especially due to the fact that a lot of the heavy hitters that are competing in this championship will not be returning for a full season. So it's a matter of finding those tracks and capitalizing on them as we get ready to go back racing here again, Justin.
A racing pace car makes its way to the safety of pit road once more. Dean off and away. Green flags out, back on her way. Nice and clean. Kenny Kibbe tries the bottom, slams the bottom door shut. James Lowe rides up to 3rd spot. Goodman trying to battle it hard for 4th.
Coming off of turn 2 down the back straightaway, Brian Dean stretched it out a little bit over Kenny Kibbe, just by about a nose as we ride on board with Michael Goodman in the 28 machine. He'll fall back to the 5th position ahead behind Justin Morton. Morton tries to go in, and we see Michael Goodman working the top side. Will it prevail? No, he'll lose another spot to Austin Belke. Drop him back to the 6th spot as he battles with Joseph Snyder for 6.
Oh, and
Trouble.
Snyder hits him. Snyder up the track. Around goes Menda. Menda bounces off 2 cars. Liston clips the grass. Liston tries to save it. Everybody somehow stabilizes all the cars, but my goodness, that was 3 wrecks in 1 straightaway that didn't bring the caution out.
Thank goodness for that, and we're going to go back here on racing at Stafford, but what a save by all the competitors to get themselves back going, not bring out the caution, but that will now stretch the field out just a little bit. to see if we can get some single file action and see who will come out on top through this first little bit of a run. As they come off of turn 2, Dean and Kibby currently stretching it out by about 0.2 of a second over James Lowe as they come off of turn 4 down the front stretch.
Everyone trying to maintain and settle into a rhythm. One of our longer runs of the race so far tonight. Top 4 in the main pack. Looking on board with the race leader, Brian Dean, with the clean air currently. One of the best starts to a race in the past year or so for Dean. Very good job for the 23 machine, who showed great pace at tracks like Martinsville in particular. Could be a top 5 competitor at some circuits. He's been able to maintain and hold on to the rest of the pack and not open the door yet.
He certainly is, and he is definitely trying to see if he can capitalize on tonight's action with being on the pole, and that's one of the benefits when it comes to this series. You know, you have that certain area where the top 10 is inverted, and you can utilize that to be on the pole for the next race, and if you're good at that track, that is a great opportunity for you in order to come out on top and possibly stay up towards the front of the field, as we see with Brian Dean right now, who is capitalizing on that, leading every lap so far and staying up in front of Kenny Kibbe and James Lowe as they come off of turn number 4 down the front straightaway. A superb job for Brian Dean in the 23.
Once the biggest movers, keep in mind, you see with the pylon, Austin Belke inside the top 5, up 6. Jeffrey Harding just outside the inversion spots. Just took that from a few drivers in trouble down the back straightaway. Bruce Pearson. No caution though, we stay green. He is off the racing surface and is coming from the middle of the infield.
Now the question is going to be, where is he going to be compared to where our race leaders are as we watch on here? Will we see the contact? The 22 goes around, a tough break for him as we see Bruce Pearson work his way back out onto the racetrack. And now we'll see what can happen to that 23 machine as he tries to work his way and negotiate around the 22.
You mentioned using the chrome horn. Joseph Snyder has proven he's not afraid to use the front bumper. However, that decision to bump there has cost him a few spots to 11th spot. Looking at the race leaders, right past a quarter-way distance so far. Kibbe not able to close up within 0.2 of a second to the 23 quite yet. But the trend, as we both know, along the time of racing, the longer the run, the more prevalent the tire wear can come up, and usually around 20 laps into a run, the signs of tire wear can come in. Dean's starting to get really snappy and a little bit tight, in particular exit. Almost so tight, he's loose.
Yeah, right now he is certainly a little bit off the pace compared to the rest of the field. He's, I would say, almost a tenth off compared to Kibbe, Lowe, and Morton, your top 4, as they work off of turn number 4 down the front straightaway. Heading back into turns 1 and 2, you're right on board with James Lowe in that 99 machine as they come through 1 and 2. You'll get a good run off there, stays right close to the back bumper of Kenny Kibbe as your top 4 continue to pull away from Austin Belke in that number 24 machine. As they work through turns 3 and 4, Brian Dean still holds on to the race lead as they work down into turn 1. Kibbe still trying to follow and find the opening he needs to steal this one away.
Some drivers, keep in mind, in this series have showcased they may elect to save the tires. You see it right there on the entry in particular. Kibbe trying to back it up, but he also in turn has more rolling speed on apex off. That's been able to help him continue to pick up quicker and quicker times, that time by a little bit slower. And that's going to be the tough thing. Not trying to send yourself to the bottom, trying to make a pass too early, but also picking the right time to do so where you don't run out of time to make a pass, so to speak.
Yeah, that is certainly definitely an important thing to consider for Kenny Kibbe, is to determine where to utilize that right amount of tire input in order to be able to push the car or to back off and maintain position, especially this early on in the race. We're just, like you said, a little past the quarter distance, approaching halfway here in about 20 laps or so as they come through the front straightaway here. But now is the time where the intensity for some drivers starts to pick up a little bit, but for some, such as Kenny Kibbe, James Lowe, and Justin Morton, it's just about logging laps, taking care of your equipment, and being ready for that second half of the race.
And as some may be pointing out as well, you mentioned the chance of the so tight it's loose scenario. That can also happen too if you're turning too much into the wheel, right? You're turning so much that it wants to snap. Kibbe wants to snap away the race lead to the inside. Dean got tight in 1 and 2. He slips and slides in 3 and 4. Kibbe paints the white line, tries to rotate the bottom. Dean lets him have it. Kibbe to the lead.
Kenny Kibbe, now your first lead change of the race here as they come around to complete lap 37 of 100, and now that moves Dean back to second. Lowe try to see if he can capitalize to move up a spot, but could not make it work. You ride on board with James Lowe. It's the middle of 3 and 4 as they work off a turn number 4, not close enough to put the pressure on Brian Dean as they come down into across the front straightaway, heading back into turn 1.
And looking at the steering wheel inputs in particular, if we can see how the wheel movements are, Dean is in particular turning the wheel compared to Kenny Kibbe up to 15 to 20 degrees more than the race leader. Here is Dean right from the visor cam. Watch this entry to apex and how much he's turning this wheel. This is about nearly 45 degrees.
45 degrees and possibly growing as you ride on board with Brian. He is holding on to that steering wheel for dear life as they work on through turns 3 and 4. Almost got it at 90 degrees that time as they come off of turn 4. Gathers it back up, but losing a ton of time right now to Kenny Kibbe as the time is about over a tenth of a second. And with Brian Dean right now, he's almost holding up James Lowe and Justin Morton, who are right there behind him. But look at Kenny Kibbe, have how much angle input he's putting. It's about it's getting close to 90 degrees itself, so those tires starting to get a little bit wear and tear on them, but they're now working their way to catch up to the lap car just up ahead of him, Bruce Pearson.
Muskegon, Michigan driver looking to set sail, running a tenth of a second quicker than the rest of the pack as a result of Dean in second. That lap traffic's going to be tricky to deal with. It's Bruce Pearson who will be the first one up, about a half a straightaway up the road. Errol Pearson has that significant damage as a result of an incident that did not bring out the caution flag. And the main thing to consider, though, in BRL competition, usually in most cases, the traffic is fairly cordial. As long as you don't reach him at the wrong spot, Taylor.
Yeah, it's certainly the case right now as we watch on here. Brian Dean trying to find the opportunity to get and gain some time up on Kenny Kibbe. James Lowe looking for that opportunity. He's right on board with Brian. He's certainly trying to do it, but with how the car is reacting right now, Brian Dean's tires might be going away during this stage of the race, so he needs to try to back it up, take care of his car, and see if he can make a push towards the end.
The interesting thing to consider at the back end of this train is still Michael Goodman. And I've been keeping a close eye on the 28. He has been sending it in way deeper than everybody else in the entire field. He's been aiming more so for the second line. We've seen it on the starts in particular where he went so hard into the corner, he nearly hit the wall on 2 consecutive restarts. He is really deep on the entries.
He's taking it really deep, and right now he's doing okay. He's staying about mid-groove compared to hugging that white line in the middle of the corner right now. He's hugging it off corner exit, but in the middle of the corner, he is about a half a lane up on the racetrack, and he's making some considerable time. He's a little bit faster right now than Austin Belke as you ride on board with the New York native driver Goodman, but still not really pushing the envelope and trying to see if he can make up that time. Currently, your top 6 has broken away from the rest of the field by over 2 seconds here as they work back into turn 1.
And the interesting thing when it comes to Michael Goodman as well is he's also been trying to get into open wheel racing, joined the service a couple of years ago, has been trying to get big victories when it comes to the league scene. He nearly had that chance about a week or so ago in Reinhardt sanctioned competition. He's been trying hard to win it in every league as he can in competitions such as this, and you have to think with Goodman, he might get there eventually with the speed he showed in the first 2 weeks. This week, he's having a bit of those struggles to hold on to the back end, absolutely.
He certainly is going to be working on that here and keeping an eye on this competition. And, of course, for this driver of Michael Goodman, he is showing he's got the talent to be able to battle up there and have a shot of top 5s and possible podium. Got a little bit of work to do, I think, before we can see him contending for race wins. He's got to take care of his equipment early on in order to be there at the end.
Still trying to settle things out at halfway now, that time by the flag stand. Under 50 laps to go. Kibbe now in the lead by more than a second. Lowe, Morton, Belke, Goodman, the top 5. Of note for the battle for the inversion spot, it has changed hands a couple times here and there. Donnie Moore's in it. Meanwhile, Kibbe, he's reached the back end of Pearson. And up to the top of the racetrack goes the 22 as the APCF machine moves up the racetrack to let him go. The American Pit Bull Foundation machine, I should say. The APBF car.
Great
but
job.
It looks like the second on back's not going to reach him in the best spot.
Yeah, but thankfully Bruce Pearson gives him plenty of room as best that he can, hugging up against that white wall through the middle of the corner to allow the rest of the competitors to work their way through. And as they come off of turn number 2 down the back straightaway, they're now approaching the next car to put a lap down. That is, I believe, 39 machine.
Yeah.
Joseph Snyder, who's just up the road.
Go a few seconds up the track, at least 8 seconds to cushion in the battle for 17th. And that's the big thing. Remember, Snyder started top 8, was amongst the top 5 at one point. How much can change when you demolish the front of the race car? Kibby, meanwhile, he's continuing to have a nice, strong pace. Right now, up to 0.2 of a second quicker than second on back.
How about that for Kenny Kibbe, doing a great job as everyone pretty much is dropping into the 22nd bracket. He is the only competitor to stay consistently into the 19.9s for this moment as they work their way off of turn number 4, back into turn 1 right now. Now we see Kenny Kibbe dip into the 20.0s as we work their way through the middle of 1 and 2, back on to turn 3 and 4, but he has about a half a straightaway, if not a full straightaway almost, over the rest of the competitors.
Yes, indeed. So still battling it about when it comes to these competitors. You'll eventually have to think the Low might, if he gets the chance, try and dive his way past the 23, because this is getting to where somebody has to make a move. Morton's on the back bumper of Low just about. Austin Belke, who was half a second back in the grouping within 3 car lengths. Just no one's been able to make the send quite yet with that big pace differential.
Certainly is not the case right now. Morton, who's been, even with the nose damage, that number 9 machine, still able to keep pace and running consistent lap times compared to the rest of the competition around him as they work off of turn number 4 back across the front straightaway here as we're a little bit over that halfway. In fact, we're closing in on 40 laps to go here at Stafford Motor Speedway. Currently, the driver in that final invert spot is Donnie Moore, which will currently be the provisional pole sitter for the next round that we have to get ready for next Saturday night.
Remember, Donnie Moore started inside second row before his issue right off from the get-go. The drivers behind him all have damage after being involved in attrition earlier. Dean still trying to put up the brick wall of defense. Lowe still can't find a way to get around towards the inside quite yet. See Dean trying to push hard to the point where he's nearly knocking the wall down on corner exit, it seems. The past few laps was still how much he's been turning the wheel and how tight things are getting.
It's certainly getting a lot tighter amongst those 4 competitors now as we see those 4 have now bunched up together. Dean, Lowe, as the caution is out.
9th on back, Jason Menda involved in trouble. Everyone else scatters to the grass. Lemieux amongst those having to slam on the brakes. And we're under caution. Kurt Smith was also amongst those having to slam it down and lock it down. But again, it was the battle for 9th. Menda, who makes contact from the back end, getting help, I should say, from Herzog, who brings us under caution.
See what happens here to that 6 machine of Kurt Smith. See if he was able to avoid the incident as they come off of turn number 2. There's the chaos in front of him. And he'll break it down, cut through the grass. Nope, stays right on the pavement as we see Jason Menda from Pensacola, Florida, who's pretty sure looking forward to a better start next week when they head to Five Flags.
Remember, started off with the opening win of the season and a bit of a tap from behind. Good job to lock it down for Menda. Problem is, place he locked down to the end, right in the middle of the racetrack, yes.
Yeah, that's the problem. We've got to give him a little bit of effort. He locked it down, decided to bring it all the way across the racetrack, but ended up parking it right there in the middle. Thankfully, nobody made contact with him that time around.
And look at how deep in turn Herzog was getting all the way to the edge of the yellow line on the apron. And we've seen that line work a few times. It was getting pretty hairy back there.
Certainly was, and it was a tough break for those competitors there. Of course, Herzog involved in another incident earlier on in the race, but was able to work his way back up to the field. But with that, that's going to cause some more issues for that number 57 machine.
Lemieux has elected to get his damage fully completed under this caution. Bruce Pearson taking the time for manual damage repair. But with that, that may have been the worst possible result if you're Brian Dean now, because guess what? He'll start on the outside front row, And the whole bottom line, if they can find a way to get to the inside of him, might be ready to start a choo-choo train with 35 to go.
All aboard the Dean Express. Who will be able to get on board? Who will be able to pass him by? We'll find out here momentarily when we get ready to go back racing here at Stafford Motor Speedway. It'll be just about 35 laps to go, a little under, close to 30 laps to go when we go back green flag racing.
Of note, only one driver in particular who's the faster pair tonight. Everybody else is here taking a 10-second or longer stop. Joseph Snyder used the faster pair. He lost a lap, though. Right around the timing to the caution flag with the checkups. So with the one to go signal, it's Kibbe and Dean, Lowe and Morton, Belke and Goodman, Hardin and Moore. Top 8. Adam Shane is the first one outside the inversion spots. Next week's race for 5 flags. 34 laps to go. Get ready to see the green flag. Keep an eye on that bottom line, especially the timing on the restart. Get on board. This is the Muskegon, Michigan-based driver of Kenny Kibbe. Ready to go up on the gas. Green flag is out, back and away.
How about the jump that Kenny Kibbe was able to get as they now start to spread out a little bit? James Lowe looks to the inside of Brian Dean. Will he try to put the bumper? Here comes Belke to the inside as well as they almost went 3 wide through the middle of turns 1 and 2. Back it down. Lowe to the inside has the advantage over Dean as he'll go side by side off of turn number 4. But Dean powers back with momentum on the outside.
Dean trying to keep it up. Can he do so? Lowe just about clear. Lowe is clear for second. Here comes Belke for the battle now for third. Looks to bring Justin Morton with him on the low side as well. Dean trying to pinch. He can't get pinched down. Can't get it to rotate.
He has one more opportunity to see if he can try to hold off Justin Morton, but it might not be to no avail as they work their way through 1 and 2. Dean tries to make it work. He might have a shot to get in front of Michael Goodman if he is able to let them by. The answer is going to be yes. No, he will not. Contact. He'll get turned around. Caution is out as Goodman and multiple other cars involved in this incident.
Back under yellow, one car immediately dodges towards the grass at Adam Shane. And I could see that coming with that door being slammed shut right in the face of Michael Goodman, right in the start of the braking zone.
Let's take a look at that replay if we get the chance to, because Michael Goodman had the door slammed in his face, and he was like, no, I'm going to bust down this door one way or another, and around goes Dean. Collects the 44 of Ricky Hardin, and collects the 73 machine also. No, not 73, the 79 machine of Adam Scone. Shane, who currently had such a good run up towards the middle of the field, but now has to fall back with a contact.
Adam Shane, he probably was hoping to stay out of the trouble so we can have some scones, but instead, Dean ends up getting him involved as well. Arden also getting involved in the contact. Still amongst the top 6 despite that.
Go for some scones right now, Justin. Why don't we say we get some dessert right after this?
Well, some drivers might not be in the dessert mood as bam, the Bakersfield, California car. And right, that second hit was Shane, which sent him to the grass, by the way.
Well, I mean, we can head on over to Gargamel's kitchen, and I'm pretty sure they would fix us up something nice. I mean, that's nothing wrong with having a nice sweet to drown away all the sorrows of getting beaten and banged up at the local racetrack.
Gargamel's kitchen is a food-grade nitrous oxide provider. I'm not sure if that's...
But they need to make a kitchen, though. I think they could make a
correct
restaurant.
I get what you're saying. But with 28 laps to go, you're in this race here at Stafford Motor Speedway. It's been intriguing how this is all played out. Kibbe, though, you have to wonder, can he play defense with James Lowe, Austin Belke, Justin Morton, Michael Goodman, and just about everybody else now past Brian Dean, who is the big brick wall in the battle for second for so long?
Well, that's going to be very interesting to see because Dean has definitely had a tough break with that. And staying on the outside, it was just very difficult for him to overcome. And he's still going to be on the outside when we go back racing since he's sitting in that 10th spot. He does have a shot to go for the pole again if he catches up and passes Kurt Smith.
And Kurt Smith looking for a little bit of luck his way in what's been a rough past couple of years. 6 on track. But Donnie Moore will have that preferred bottom line for the restart coming up with 27 now to go. Lights are out on top of the iRacing pace car. Kibbe looks to try and contain and maintain the tempo. He's led the most laps now with 37 out of his 73 completed. Dean started off the night with the first 36, to his credit. And Austin Belke's already riding the back bumper of Kibbe. A little bit of friendship being shown, maybe. Or something.
Something going on. We don't know what. We're going to find out, though, as they make their way through 3 and 4. Barty the flagman has the green flag in hand, and we're back underway here at Stafford.
Good launch for Kibbe. Lowe gets to the bottom. Belke clears for third. 3 wide behind him. Hardin, Sagawa, Smith were 3 wide. They're 3 wide again now with more. Dean backs it off. Everyone at the bottom forced to check up. Back 2 by 2. Still side by side from Jeffrey Hardin on back for 6th.
Jeffrey Hardin trying to fight his way back up through the field in that 6th place car. He'll work the outside of Joe Sagala, but not to any avail. He'll fall back to 7th. That's Donnie Moore in that Pontiac trying to put the pressure on and see if he can get another spot. He'll put the bumper to him, and around he goes. Will he stay it? Nope. We go under caution with 25 to go.
Caution is back out. Todd Liston also collected. Michael Lemieux will also lose majority of his track position, having to slam into a full dead stop to just avoid the contact. But the trigger, Hardin gets the tap from Donnie Moore in the battle for the inversion spot. Back under yellow.
Down goes Hardin from Bakersfield, California, and collects a couple of other cars. You see, I believe that's the 87 of Todd Liston involved with this incident. A couple of other vehicles caught up in that as well. So not the night some of these competitors hoping for, and they are going to have to come down pit road to see if they can do it. As we ride on board with Kurt Smith, does he make it through? Nope, he does not. Had nowhere to go. Gets kind of barricaded into that incident, making hard contact for Jeffrey Hardin.
Right to the side of the car here. See Mark Herzog amongst those forced scatter about. Also based from California in the Burger Theme machine. Just barely avoiding contact. There, that's Liston, though. In the checkup aftermath, he got spun around.
He tried to make it through and almost made it through, but then there's the contact that he had with Herzog, and around he'll go. Back to the grass and then back up onto the racetrack as we see Michael Lemieux coming out around the track in that 40 machine. As we have one car out of the race, that is Jason Menda.
17 laps ago, he elected to park, and now 18 laps after being involved in that situation in the middle of the racetrack. 21 laps to go. Battle for the race lead may get even busier because a lot of give and take given amongst the top 3. A lot of argy-bargy for about 4th to 5th on back or so. As you see the biggest movers and shakers. Joe Sagawa, big credit to him, from nearly to the back of the field to the top 6, plus 13, despite his damage.
Great drive for him so far, Joe Sagala, as we get a look at him right there, the Loves Park, Illinois native. That beautiful blue and chromed Ford Mustang number 81, as he will try to see if he can pick up a couple of more spots to work his way up through the field.
Ready to get back underway. 20 laps to go this time by from East Stafford. Kibbe gonna slow down the tempo for the launch. Green flag is out, back underway. 5th on back, not the greatest launch. 3rd on back, looking to fight it out. Lowe opens the bottom. Belke peels the way the bottom. He keeps it to the quarter panel, but Lowe gets the run regardless.
James Lowe, one-time competitor here in the BRL. He is going to fight to get that 2nd place position as they work off of turn number 4. Belke try to get on the back bumper as we see Sagala struggling on the outside. He'll get passed by Donnie Moore. Here comes Brian Dean. He will challenge Sagala for the 7th spot. He wants to see if he can gain a few more as they work through turns 1 and 2 off of turn 2. Move Brian Dean up to 7th place.
Got to pick up some of the spots lost. Mark Herzog continues to maintain the apron, peeling away that spot from Robbie Robinson. And here we ban doors, and Robinson hits the wall. Robinson down the middle of the straightaway pounds the wall. Herzog goes to the apron to round that for spots. Snyder tries to do the same. Busy battling for 10th, make it 9th on back, just outside the inversion spots.
Joe Segala currently holds that inversion spot in the 8th position. Mark Herzog sits in 9th as they work their way across the start-finish line. 17 laps to go here at Stafford Motor Speedway as they work through turns 1 and 2. There's Austin Belke, the Warren, Michigan native, as he works his way through the middle of turns 3 and 4, sitting in that 3rd spot in the Rainbow Warriors number 24 machine off of turn number 4 down the front straightaway. Can't really seem to put the pressure on, but he just ran the fastest lap last time by amongst the top 3.
Austin Belke looking to continue the momentum shown at the start of the season. Started off the campaign for Different Path Motorsports by honoring J.R. Shepard with a tribute paint scheme, then went back to his traditional Jeff Gordon paint schemes. Tonight you look at some of the pace. Lowe a little bit quicker on the stopwatch, but Belke looking for one of his best runs to start off the campaign with under 15 to go.
He's working his way through. He has a little pressure right now from the 9 of Justin Morton, who's right there behind him as they work through 3 and 4. Across the start-finish line they'll go, and it will be, of course, 14 laps to go here at Stafford, and he's putting the pressure on all over Austin Belke as James Lowe gets a little bobbly off of turn 2.
You're trying to push hard to keep up. Remember, Lowe looking to break through after his strong run last time out. That helped him get the points lead in the standings. In a couple car lanes now. He was as far back as nearly half a second at the start of this run. Going 12 laps to go. Lowe trying to break away to the inside of Kibbe. Can't get there yet. 12 to go.
As they come across the line, and Kenny Kibbe still maintains about a 0.2 of a second lead over James Lowe as they work through the middle of turns 1 and 2. Lowe trying to put the pressure on, but can't quite seem to find that run he needs to get to that back bumper of Kenny Kibbe as they work through 3 and 4 once again, and gets right a little bit close, maybe about half a car length between them, and then after that he can't seem to get the run he needs through the middle of those corners. It's corner exit where Kenny Kibbe really showcases his talent and speed.
Look on board from Kibbe as we approach 10 laps to go in this one. Michigan-based driver continues to round the bottom. Nocturnal Gaming back driver has led more than half this race. 10 to go.
10 laps to go for Kenny Kibbe as he tries to hold on. Can he pull it off here? James Lowe all over the back bumper of that 14 Chevrolet as they dive it back into turn 3 and 4. Belke trying to see if he can close the gap to go and challenge for a possible second or first place run here tonight at Stafford. And Morton looking to get on the podium here tonight.
Lowe starting to send it a little bit deeper into these corners as well to try and get to that back bumper for the race lead. Approaching the point of no return. At Stafford, that is about 5 laps to go. Lowe trying to close it up within 3/10. Back up to about 3/10 and a half. It's 8 laps to go.
We are logging some laps here at Stafford as they work their way down the back straightaway. Kenny Kibbe doing what he needs to do, holding strong in that front position, working his way through for the Michigan native as they come out at turn number 4, 8, 7 laps to go this time around.
Has been looking strong on entry, but hasn't been able to take advantage of that. All of this is while Austin Belke, he's pulled away from Justin Morton. The top 4 has about a 1-second gap between Morton and Goodman. So the top 4 with a decent buffer for the final 6 laps if it stays green. A couple laps away from the point of no return.
Get the big high five from Barney the Flagman, and Kenny Kibbe comes out of turn number 2 down the back straightaway. He's going to come to that 5 laps to go as they work through 3 and 4. James Lowe gets a little closer, but Kibbe pulls away off corner exit. Give the high five for Barney the Flagman. 5 laps to go.
Next flag ends the race from this point forward past the point of no return. Lowe looking to try and get himself another victory in the Super Late Models. Kibbe looking to break through to start off his campaign on the right foot in the 14. Still 3/10 the gap. 4 laps to go.
Heading back into turns 1 and 2, Lowe is starting to lose a little bit of pace right now. Last time around, they were almost identical in lap times. Kibbe, though, still managing to pull a little bit of a gap through the middle of the corner as Lowe sends it in deep through the middle of turn 3 and 4. Off corner exit, here comes Kenny Kibbe pulling away. 3 laps to go.
Losing ground, all this is while the inversion spot is side by side. Mark Herzog has been able to utilize the bottom in the apron, and the Herzog Motorsports machine to rip away 8th. Joe Segala tries to use the same line, can't do it. 2 laps to go. Herzog looking for the pole next week.
He is going to try to see if he can get that pole, but Joe Segala's got to say something different about that as he's got 2 more attempts to try to make it work. But out of turn number 2, we're going to see Kenny Kibbe get the white flag from Barney the Flagman here today at Stafford as he works through turn 3 and 4.
Coming up to the final time around, Kenny Kibbe has led more than half this race after passing by Brian Dean after working on him for more than 30 laps. Today, though, Kenny Kibbe put on a masterclass on how to drive at East Stafford through 3 and 4 for the final time. Kenny Kibbe closes it out. He wins at Stafford.
That astounding performance by Kenny Kibbe to take home the win here today. A dominant performance the second half of the race, though, for him there, Justin, to be able to get around Brian Dean, capitalize on Dean's mistake, and he will come out on top with the victory.
James Lowe, Austin Belke amongst the top 3 as the motor revs go on for Belke. Celebration is all set to go for one Kenny Kibbe. Breaks through for the victory. Came in tonight second in the points. He'll get the chance to burn it on down in his signature number 14 machine. Post-race coverage for the BRL's Super Late Model Series is coming up right after this. You're watching the Virtual Grip Network from iRacing's virtual Stafford Speedway. Welcome back to the Virtual Grip Network's coverage of the Bootleg Racing League Super Late Model Series here on iRacing. Let's take a look at the unofficial race results as Kenny Kibbe picks up the victory by just under half a second. James Lowe and Austin Belke round out the top 3. Belke went from 11th to 3rd to do so. Justin Morton finished in 4th with Michael Goodman in 5th, Donnie Moore in 6th, Dean and Hertzog round out the inversion spots. Joe Segala finished in 9th, Robbie Robinson rounded out the top 10 from 16th to 10th Taylor.
Joseph Snyder will come home in the 11th position, followed by Jeffrey Harden in 12th, with Kurt Smith coming home in 13th. Michael Lemieux will come home in 14th, followed by Todd Liston in 15th. Adam Shane in 16th, with Bruce Pearson not having the best of nights. He'll come home in 17th. Michael Smith will be the last car to finish in the race, with Jason Menda in 19th.
That's a look top to bottom at the running order unofficially for tonight's action as Kibbe gets the job done at East Stafford. Let's take the time to speak with our drivers now who are amongst your top 3 in the running order. Kenny Kibbe is your winner tonight at East Stafford. Kenny, broken through tonight and did so in dominating fashion. 64 out of 100 laps led. How does it feel to be in victory lane tonight?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, it's always fun to get the any victory, but first victory in the new series is kind of cool. And new paint scheme on the car for this season. I haven't ever had a reason to drive it, so I'm happy to put that in victory lane. And Stafford's a really cool track. Always like winning here, but yeah, a huge shot of momentum here, putting in victory lane.
It took a while, it seemed, to get around Brian Dean to get said race lead. How difficult was that process to find a way to set it up, get the pass down to the right spot to take advantage of the tire difference?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the beginning I was kind of just riding. I was trying to just settle in, get into a rhythm. and I wasn't really playing much offense, and I kind of wanted to see if we could build a little bit of a gap back to third place, and we kind of did that. And then after a little while, I knew that, like with these supers, you almost have to race to halfway or so, because it comes to a point where, unless your tires are way better than the guys around you, if you're pretty even, it's really, really hard to pass when we get into the late goings of these races. So I knew I did have to make a move eventually, and so I started to kind of pressure Brian a little bit, and he just went a little too deep into turn one and moved up the track, and I went in there and was able to take advantage. But yeah, I wanted to play it safe, but I wanted to make sure I got that pass done before too long.
That some very strong momentum, as you talked about, for Five Flags up next. Your opinions on that racetrack, a track you know a lot of when it comes to your sim racing escapades.
I do, yes. I've competed in quite a few snowball derbies, and of course those are in the super late model, so I'm excited for that place. That's probably one of my favorite tracks on the service, so might put a little bit of pressure on myself to do well there, but Five Flags is always so fun. It's so fast, and yeah, let's hope we can ride this momentum and have a good run there.
Anyone you want to give a shout out to after this one?
Yeah, just everybody at the Bootleg Racing League for coming together and racing every weekend, and you guys at Virtual Grip Network. It's been really fun to watch the broadcasts and be a part of the broadcasts on Tuesday nights. And to the competitors, the guys that people who like to ride on board with me every Saturday. It's always fun hanging out on Twitch with them, and yeah, it was a fun night.
Congratulations on the victory, Kenny.
Thank you.
That's Kenny Kivy, your winner tonight from East Stafford. Second spot went to James Lowe. He's with Taylor Burris.
Here with James Lowe coming home in second place. James, you had a very strong and solid night running inside the top three for a majority of the race. Walk us through, though, what prevented you from maybe challenging that race lead with Kenny Kivy?
The car was just too tight when I got up close behind him, and I couldn't get a good run off. So yeah, it's pretty much the same as the first 2 weeks so far. Whoever gets out in the lead, as long as they don't make a mistake, they're probably going to win. Because I could not get a drive off because I'd be so tight right up behind him, and I had to back off so I could actually turn a little bit. So that's what ultimately ended up being the night.
Well, one of the things also we need to touch on as well is explain the difficulty of racing here at Stafford. We see a lot of drivers struggled, especially in the middle of the pack, of how difficult it was, and even for a race leader at one point, Brian Dean. What's so challenging about this amazing and historical short track?
Well, it gives you the impression that you can drive into some of these corners a little bit faster than you think you can. And you got a lot of wheel in it right in the middle of the corner, and when you're coming off, it just wants to snap loose on you. And that's what catches most guys out coming off the corners. You know, it snaps around on them and they get into the wall or whatever. But if you just kind of slow it down, you're a lot better off. And that's what I was trying to do to save some tire. But like I said, right behind Kenny there, it was just too tight. I couldn't do much with him.
Before we let you go, James, anyone like to say thank you to?
Yeah, just like to thank everybody that watches, my family and friends, and Lowell Jewell for putting all this on, and Gargamel's Kitchen for continuing to sponsor the league, and you guys for broadcasting. Appreciate it.
Of course, that is James Lowe coming home in second place, and we now catch up with our third place finisher, Austin Belke, with Justin Prince.
Yes, indeed, in Austin. Brought that Rainbow Warriors paint scheme to the top three from the 11th spot tonight. How difficult was it to cut yourself to the pack tonight?
Hey, Justin. Well, it would have been extremely difficult. I mean, at Stafford, it's kind of just whatever lane you start in. And unfortunately, we were on the high side for most of the early restarts, except that very first one. And I think we just kind of took advantage of using the momentum on the high side while there were people checking up, trying to get low. And as soon as you try to go to the low side and you start up high, the person that's low behind you has to check up a little bit. And I kind of just shoved it into turn 1 and 2 hard a couple times. And the caution came out at an incredibly lucky time for me.
Yeah, it seemed that type of attrition, if you stayed out of the trouble, charged yourself ahead, and in turn, how would you describe the start of the season for you now, able to cut yourself to the pack? You've been amongst the top 3 conversation each week. flirting with the J.R. Shepherd paint scheme. Now, putting yourself in solid points position entering the middle portion of the season.
Yeah, the points are so tricky because you really have to be on the top of your game every single week. I mean, when JR and James were here, and then Matt, Matt and JR always have incredibly tight points battles. And with those two, you're pretty much going to finish 1 and 2 every single race. If not on the podium, they're for sure getting the top 5 at worst. So you have to be in the top of your game every single week. And the 2 podiums certainly put me in a good points position, but that 15th place or whatever I got last week is really going to take me out of it. So we kind of need for my competitors to have some bad weeks and for me to have a lot of good weeks on the flip side. So we'll see how it goes. I might have to end up missing a race or 2 during the season just with, life and stuff like that. So we'll see how it goes, but for sure, really solid way to start it out.
Somebody's going to win the championship. It's the question of which driver at this point. But the next race goes to Five Flags. Your opinions for that circuit?
I like Five Flags. It's a pretty cool place. Ever since Kenny Kibbe showed me around that joint probably a year ago about this time, it's been a lot more fun to drive it. You kind of know what to expect when you go there in the lines and stuff. I'd say hands down, it's probably Kenny's best track, or he's the best there. And I think it's just one of those things where turns 1 and 2 are different than turns 3 and 4. This is another place like that. It seems like wherever you go, when the 2 corners are different to one another, Kenny is just on fire at those tracks. I don't know if it's just the way he approaches them or, his mental fortitude to do that differently every single lap the same way. But it's a pretty fun track. It's going to be really tough, though, especially with the way these cars have the front splitters. James talked about it, too. You get behind somebody, you just lose a lot of the front downforce, and it's really hard to get the runs off the corner and through the center when you're lacking all that speed and downforce there. And these cars are just naturally pretty tight in the center of the corner, which JR's talked about a lot up in the booth.
Who do you want to give a shout-out to after this one tonight?
Well, I got to start off with the good Lord, my parents, my wonderful girlfriend, Jacqueline, J.R. Shepherd, and my team, Different Path Motorsports. Lowell for putting the league on, and Justin for hosting the team speak. It's nice to kind of shoot the breeze with him a lot during the race, especially during the cautions. We had a lot of time to mingle during them, but he raced me clean the entire race, and he had a junk car. I mean, ever since that first restart, he was driving with probably half the downforce on the front end of that car compared to everyone else. So for him to finish 4th is a huge feat on his behalf. So congratulations to him for the 4th place, Kenny for winning. He drove a brilliant race. James for finishing 2nd. Congrats to those 2. Brian drove a great race as well before I think he just heated up the tires a little bit, and after that it just, I don't know what happened to take him out of contention completely, but he was definitely going to be a solid option for the top 5. Everyone racing in BRL all night. Gargamel's Kitchen for being a sponsor of the series. They're a great partner for us. You guys at VGN for bringing these races to the fans, and speaking of the fans, them too for watching at home.
By the way, the part of the reason for Dean, he was turning the wheel 45 degrees in the corners. But either way, congratulations to you.
Thank you, buddy.
That's Austin Belke rounding out the top 3 tonight. I'd like to thank him, James Lowe, Kenny Kibbe for taking the time to speak with us during post-race coverage. Now, Taylor, tonight, the cautions definitely bred some cautions, but in turn, the drivers with the most experience with this car, especially Kenny Kibbe, the ones who showcased the speed by the checker flag tonight to be able to control the tempo. Taylor.
Should make sure my mic is turned on. That would be a very important
Yes.
thing. So very rookie mistake on my part. But the most important thing is to make sure that these drivers were taking care of their equipment. And that's what a lot of these major super late model players in the BRL were able to showcase, such as Kenny Kibbe, James Lowe. For Brian Dean, he had a great start, but one mistake cost him the chance to be able to win tonight's action. He was able to recover into a top 7 finish, which now moves him to 2nd place starting. We head to 5 flags, but this change up in the point standings will be a very interesting scenario when we head out to 5 flags for, of course, the beautiful Pensacola track and seeing what happens there.
It's going to be a wild one, I think, to say the very least, and going to be very pivotal for the early stages to see which drivers are able to make it to the race, but also which drivers settle on in the points battles. I'd like to take the time to shout out the proud sponsor of this series, Gargamel's Kitchen, a food-grade nitrous oxide provider located in Denver, Colorado, and a proud sponsor of the BRL. Visit our office at 2045 South Frontier Street. Call it 720-707-6178. The next time, as mentioned, the BRL's its Super Late Model Series is the racetrack, will be at Five Flags at 8:55 p.m. Eastern Time. Be sure to tune in on April the 16th during that holiday weekend. The next time VGN will be live will be prior to that on April the 11th at 9:05 p.m. Eastern Time, because it's Autobahn Sports Car Challenge time from the French countryside. Once again, 9:05 p.m., April the 11th. But with that, we'd like to thank you for tuning in for tonight's action here from East Stafford. For my co-announcer and Taylor Burris, for producer and Trevor Greenfield, my name's Justin Prince. This has been a production of the Virtual Grip Network. Congratulations to Kenny Kibbe, your winner from Stafford.